Hey all, so happy to be live today. Wanted to come on today because I had a little lesson today that I wanted to just bring to your attention because it was something that I tend to forget, but when I'm managing people, it tends to come up over and over and over again. So there is something that's called Parkinson's Law, which states that no matter how much time you leave for something, you're going to take that much time to do it, right? So if you have a day to do something, it'll take you a day. If you have 2 weeks to do something, it'll take you 2 weeks, right? And so it's this sort of issue that when you are planning something, how much time do you give it? How much time do you allocate for your team to take on a part of a project or a project? So when you're working on your online course, you need to keep Parkinson's Law in your back pocket, because what happens is that people will rise to the occasion. People will say, well, it's going to take me 2 weeks to do this, or it's going to take me 2 months to do this, or 2 years to do this. But if you give yourself a specific window, you actually can do the same amount of work in a smaller period of time, because you just become more focused. You become more um, more specific in terms of how you're going to get something done, right? So say you had 2 weeks to do something, well, you'll probably leave it to the last minute, or you'll work on it a little bit each day, but you won't really get in and focus and get it done. And so when you are managing a team, when you either as a project manager or as an owner, or just really helping your group make decisions about deadlines, it's really important to keep that in mind. Like, what is the, what are the drivers that will determine how much time you have to do something? And then keep Parkinson's Law in mind, because people will tend to make things last as long as it takes to get to that deadline. So the second part of this, which is the title of this live, is, are you a crammer or a step-by-stepper, right? So there are two different types of people that are out there. And you may recall this from maybe the last test you took in school, or just what your natural tendency is as you're working on a project. But the first is that you are a crammer, which means you have a deadline and then you wait until like the night before, right? Think about like taking a test. You know that you have to take a test, and so you wait for the night before, and then you stay up all night long and you just cram as much as you can for that test at the last minute. Or if you are a step-by-stepper, what you do is you find out that there's a test, and so every day you sort of chip off different different pieces of studying for that test, right? So this doesn't go away. This tendency, this behavior doesn't go away when you go into the real world and you have to work up against a deadline, right? So this is super, super important for you to know about yourself, what your tendency is, because you may have to give yourself kind of a pre-deadline before the actual deadline in order to make sure that you save enough time for that cramming, or that you just have to plan to stay up all night in order to get something done. Or if you're a step-by-stepper, you know that you need to block time on your calendar every day in order to build to get to that deadline, so you have enough time to put everything in a little bit more of an organized or methodical fashion, right? But this also becomes super important when you're managing a team. So when you're creating your online course, most often you are going to have people who are helping you to do different pieces of building your online course, especially your online course business. So it's really critical to know your team's tendency, because if you have a deadline and all of a sudden, like the week before the deadline, you're like, we haven't seen anything. Like, what's happening? Are you not working, or are you working? Right? For a crammer, they're going to be like, nope, nope. I'm just sort of, thinking about it, but I'm not going to do anything until the very last minute. Which sometimes puts you at risk if there's a collaborative approach that you're taking, or people have to work together, right? So you have to adjust the deadlines, maybe put some smaller deadlines in for that crammer, so they can still operate under their tendency, but you're able to to work with other people. Or if you're a step-by-stepper and you have step-by-steppers on your team, you know that you can kind of collaborate and go through the motions, right? So this becomes super important as you're trying to get a project done on time, that you need other people to work on, or other people collaborating together, is combining those two styles and making sure that you're putting in the two different touch points along the way. So in my 16 years of running an agency, this is one of the biggest things that I would say that I've had to learn in terms of hiring other people is this issue where you sort of, set the deadline and then you wait and you're like, okay, well, I'm sure they're going to do it. I'm sure they're going to do it. It's going to get done. And at the very last minute, you either know that they did it or they haven't done it, right? And so pulling that deadline closer makes a huge difference, because it gives you just a little bit of breathing room if you are in that situation. So there is your tip for today. Think about Parkinson's Law, which means that regardless of how much time you have, you're going to use it, right? So it doesn't matter if it's 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, you're going to use that time. That's how it works. And then think about the working style of yourself and your working style of your team when you're setting deadlines on a project, and see what everyone's tendency is. Then build your touch points, your milestones around that deadline accordingly, so you can feel the confidence that things are going to get done when they need to get done, especially if you are helping a client. That's a huge tip right there, that will save you from becoming a crammer if you're not a crammer, right? Because you don't want to have to stay up all night if it's not necessary. So there you go. There is your tip for the day. Hopefully that helps you. Would love to hear in the comments whether or not you're a crammer or a step-by-stepper, and how it served you to know that in your work. All right, there you go. Have fun.